47 and verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob.
The Bible's always repeating itself. He says he showeth his word unto Jacob. He rescued us from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage. Read.
His statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
He gave his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. Read.
He hath not dealt so with any nation.
He did not care about all the other nations. He only cared about the children of Israel, because the covenants was made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel. Read.
And as for his judgments.
And as for his judgments, read.
They have not known them.
As for God's curses, no other nation upon this earth has known the curses but us. We were the ones that went into slavery on cargo slave ships. Right. We are the ones that's currently in bondage. We are the ones that's serving our enemies in hunger, thirst, and nakedness, and the one of all things. We are the ones that's always paying taxes. Right. Read. Go back to
Praise ye the Lord.
Praise ye the Lord that he only cares about the children of Israel. He doesn't care about the other nations. Only the children of Israel. All praises to the Most High for that. Go back to where you was at.
Amos chapter 3 and verse 2.
Read.
Ye only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities.
He said, because of our iniquities, because of the sins that we commit on a day-to-day basis, God said he's going to punish us for all the things that we have done. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. So what is the punishments that he had placed upon us? Let's check out a couple of them. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Start at verse 15.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Read.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
Now this is the prophet Moses speaking unto the children of Israel. He said, these things are surely going to come to pass if we did not listen and if we not obeyed God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Read.
To observe to do all his commandments.
To observe and to do his commandments. Read.
And his statutes, which I command thee this day.
Because Moses gave us law, statute, commandments. Moses gave us laws that we are supposed to follow to be a righteous nation, a holy nation, a separate nation. Right?
That all these curses.
But we did not follow the laws, statutes, and commandments that God gave unto Moses to teach us. Right?
That all these curses.
Therefore, curses is going to be placed upon us as a people. Right on.
Shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
Now these curses have now come upon us and now it has overtaken us. Give me verse 47.
Verse 47. Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness.
Because we don't want to serve God with joyfulness. It's the Sabbath day. But what we do, we say, forget the Sabbath day. Forget God's laws. Forget treating each other as brothers and sisters. Forget showing brotherly love unto one another. Read.
Because thou servest not the Lord thy God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart.
We're not happy when it's time for God's high holy days to come around. We think it's a burden. Read.
For the abundance of all things.
Because God has created the world for us, only for the children of Israel, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. It's time for you to come and realize that this world and everything that revolves around this world is made for you. The sun, the moon, and the stars is made for you. All the nations upon this earth were made because of you. Right.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
Because you don't want to serve God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. God has said you're going to what?
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
And now you're going to serve your enemies, right?
Which the Lord shall send against thee.
Because the Lord has sent our enemies against us. They just didn't come here in a fly-by-night making up a plan. No, the Lord put that idea upon them and sent the enemies against us. Right?
And hunger.
And hunger. Any type of food you want, you got to go to your enemies. No matter if it's any type of nation you go to. You go to so-called Chinese, the so-called Japanese. You go to the so-called Arab man, the so-called white man. Those are your enemies. You got to go to them for food. Right?
And in thirst.
Any type of water you want, Philadelphia Water Company is not ran by us. It's ran by your enemies. Any type of water you want to drink out of the bottle is not ran by us. It's ran by your enemies. Right?
And in nakedness.
And any type of clothes you want to put on your back. Any type of shoes you want to walk in is ran by your enemies. We do not make any of these things. Even the name brand clothes. You may have like Rockaware, or wherever it's called nowadays. It's still not ran by us. It's still ran by our enemies. Although the face upon there is a so-called black man, but still nonetheless, it's still ran by your enemies. Read.
And in want of all things.
And any type of want that you want, any type of desire that you want, any type of desire that you need. You need a house, you got to go to your enemies for it. If you need any type of certificate, such as death certificate, birth certificate, any type of medical attention, you got to go to your enemies for it. Right.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And that yoke of iron is going to be upon your neck. Everywhere that you've gone in captivity, that yoke of iron is upon your neck. Right on.
Until he have destroyed thee.
Until he has destroyed you as a people. And we were destroyed. Once Abraham Lincoln has signed that Emancipation Proclamation, those chains were now released off our neck, but the chains are now on our mind.
Right.
So it's now time for you to learn the truth so you can get those chains from off your mind and come back to the one true living God. Give me Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 5. Because God has stated that he was going to punish us for all the iniquities that we have conducted before his eyes. Now, what type of iniquities did we do? We committed sin. We broke God's law, statute, commandments. Read.
Ezekiel chapter 5 and verse 5. Thus saith the Lord God, this is Jerusalem.
This is Jerusalem. So what is Jerusalem? Give me 2 Chronicles 6 and 6. So what is Jerusalem? Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. Read.
2 Chronicles chapter 6 and verse 6.
So we're going to see who lived in Jerusalem. Read on.
But I have chosen Jerusalem, that my name might be there.
So Jerusalem is where God's name is going to be. Read on.
And have chosen David to be over my people Israel.
David was a prophet and a king. A king after the Most High's own heart. Read on.
Now it was in the heart of David my father to build an house for the name of the Lord God of Israel.
Of the name of the Lord God of Israel. So Israel was living in Jerusalem. That is our capital. That is our motherland. Go to Galatians. You could drop that and go to Galatians.
Bring it out.
We're going to come right back to Ezekiel. So it says that Israel lived in Jerusalem. So we're going to see what is our motherland. Because a lot of us, we walk up and down these streets saying, well, yeah, Africa, that's the motherland. But what part of Africa is it? We're going to show you. Read.
Galatians chapter 4 and verse 26.
Read.
But Jerusalem, which is above, is free. Which is the mother of us all.
That's where we're from. That's our motherland. The land of Israel. Our capital is Jerusalem. Go back to Ezekiel.
Ezekiel chapter 5 and verse 5.
Read.
Thus saith the Lord God, this is Jerusalem. I have set it in the midst of the nations and countries that are round about her.
Now God has placed us around all nations that are round about us. So we have the so-called Chinese man, which is Moab in the Bible. We have the so-called Japanese man, which is Ammon in the Bible. We have the so-called Arabs, which is Ishmael in the Bible. We have the so-called Edomite. We have the so-called white man, which is Esau, or Edomites in the Bible. Read it.
And she have changed my judgments into wickedness.
Now, God has given us righteous law, statutes, and commandments. He has given us good law, statutes, and commandments. But what did we do?
And she have changed my judgments into wickedness more than the nations.
Instead of us serving God with joyfulness and with gladness of heart, we have changed God's judgments into what?
Into wickedness.
We have changed God's judgments into wickedness. More than who?
More than the nations.
More than the nations. The other nations did not get God's laws. The other nations is slaves running about. But what we do, we want to be like the rest of the nations. We want to serve their gods. God says what? Serve me and only me, and no other God came before me, and no God will come after me. He is the only one true living God. But what we say, no, we want to serve this rock. We want to serve this stone. We want to serve this Kaaba stone. We want to serve this wood. We want to serve the white man Jesus. We want to serve Caesar Borgia. We want to eat what the rest of the nations eat. We want to eat shrimp, crab, lobster. We want to eat pork. Read on.
And my statutes more than the countries that are round about her.
And we've disobeyed God's statutes more than the rest of the nations. Because the rest of the nations didn't get God's law, statute, commandments. But what we do, we've disobeyed God's law, statute, commandments. We've disobeyed him. We've disobeyed our God. And because of that, we are now serving the other nations. Read.
For they have refused my judgments and my statutes.
We have refused God's laws. We have refused to be a righteous and holy and just nation. We refuse to be a top above all nations. We want to be on the bottom. You may say to yourself, well, I don't like being on the bottom. But your actions speak louder than words.
We used to scream black power while Heron was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.